As a painter, I feel like it's two sides to one coin, you know? What I do with light and movement and color is what musicians do with tone and rhythm and melody.
Today, I am pleased to say I have a guest whom I've known of for a little time since I've been here in Japan, but we've never met. She thought that she'd met me, and then when we started talking, I realized that we hadn't met, but we're kindred spirits, I believe, in a certain way. And I should give you a warning ahead of time. We might have a little potty mouth language in here, only because Traci hangs around a lot of musicians. So she warned me, so I'm warning you. So if you're used to watching these podcasts with your children, you might want to be careful.
I'm going to try and behave myself.
That's right. This isn't really for children anyway. So let's meet my guest this morning, Traci. Traci, it is a pleasure to meet you for the first time.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that after all these years, this would be the first time we've met. That's just so strange.
But I know you're the type of person that makes everyone feel welcome, so you wanted so hard to make me believe that we met each other.
In my mind, we had met. Maybe it's because, you know, of seeing you on Facebook so much and stuff, like it feels like we've met.
That's right.
Social media can do that to you too.
That's true. That's true, because you'll see what they're posting and say, yeah, and that's very intimate sometimes, what you think. Like the pictures you posted of yourself.
It can be.
And we're talking about of her being when she was a little girl. That's what I'm talking about. And you'll have to go through her, become her friend in order to find out what I know. Anyway, Traci, where were you born?
I was born in California, Manteca actually, which is this tiny little farming town. My grandparents had a small small farm there. So my grandpa worked on a railroad and then they had their small farm.
Do you have siblings?
I do. I have a younger brother and sister who are twins, who look nothing alike, actually.
How many years difference?
They're like 3 plus a little years younger than me, so 3 years younger than me.
Okay, so you weren't too bad. Were you guys close growing up?
No, you know, yeah, we had a very close family.
Okay.
We moved around a lot, which maybe that kind of helps, because you spend a lot of time playing with your little brother and sister if you're not like if every couple years you're moving, so you have to make new friends and stuff. So
why was that? Your father was in the military?
Every time he got a promotion in business, they would move him to a different region. So it was due to his business, and you know, he was doing well, so they kept moving him. So
how are mom and dad now? Are they doing okay now?
Unfortunately, my mom just passed during COVID. Not from COVID. COVID was we lost all of the key female women in our family during that time.
Who would be?
My aunt, my mom's sister, my grandma, and then my mom.
Your grandma, your mother's mother?
Actually, my dad's mother.
Okay.
My mom's mother had passed a while ago.
Your father and mother stayed together the whole time?
Yeah, so and it was really, and she had a debilitating neural disease, so he really spent years taking care of her in the last I don't know, probably 5 years, it was almost 24/7 of caring for her, and so, but I was just so grateful that it was like she held on until I could get home, because the lockdowns, we couldn't leave during that first year, or they wouldn't have let us back in. And I mean, if it was super I had to go, I would have gone, but you know, then that would have left my business partner without me here to help run the business. So the whole thing was such a mess. But so I was so grateful that I was able to get out. So I got out and went home for almost 3 months for her hospice and to help my dad after that. Organize everything. And
was she passed away while you were there?
Yeah, thankfully, yes. I was able to spend the last, I guess, 6 weeks with her to help with her hospice. I don't know how my dad did it by himself, honestly. It was so intense and so hard, and I wasn't even there for that long of it, you know.
What about your brother and sister?
Well, I mean, my brother is based in Houston, so he came out, he was able to come out a couple of times, but, you know, he's got 3 kids and a job, and so it's hard, and my sister works, and so, you know, she's there as much as she can to help, but it's different than, like, I was just there, living there, and so I can work from my laptop on most things. So, but I could just dedicate like that time, whereas other, my brother and sister just don't have the time or the ability to do that.
You were there
so.
for 3 weeks?
Almost 3 months, yeah.
3 months.
Yeah, because like after then it was like packing up my mom's stuff. I couldn't leave my dad to do that. That was just heartbreaking. So it was just too, and so I just said like extended my trip and just stayed. And luckily my business partner we moved to the cow to the quite small scaled down location, so he runs the operations with just like one staff and him, and so they're able to do that. Like, well, there's a few staff, but one staff at a time. And so he could pretty much hold down the fort and allow me to be able to do that. So I feel so grateful that I was able to spend that time.
Yes. That's interesting. So let's get back into you. That's sad to hear about your mother, though. And lucky, like you said, that you're able to go back and at least to have closure, I guess.
Yes. Well, and just that time is so precious.
It is. It is.
To be able to spend that time, even if it was so hard, it's still so precious.
That's true. That's true.
And my dad's doing great, so that's such a relief that he's able to sort of. We all miss her so much, but at the same time, he's after taking care of her for so many years, it's also he gets to do some things he wasn't able to do before. So he's doing the best that he can with that time now.
I see.
I
see.
So anyway, not to go down some.
I hear you. I understand that. I was fortunate enough to be with my father before he passed. I was with him for 80 hours, and he was in the hospital. And my father couldn't speak because they had a tube in his mouth and one in his nose. But he was coherent, so the first thing he wrote to me when we got there on a piece of paper was, "Stay with me." And I said, "Dad, I didn't come from the other side of the planet to leave you."
Yeah.
What were you like as a little girl? Were you more sports-minded or were you more physical?
Oh, I'm not sporty Spice at all.
Okay.
I Princess Tracy.
That's all the way through.
But I was like showing horses was my thing. So since my grandfather on the farm, like by the time I could walk, I was on a pony.
Okay.
So that was my great love. That was the only sport I was good at. My great love. So I always spent tons of time training with the horses and stuff.
But did you do Western style? I'm thinking you
did both.
Did both?
Yeah.
Because California, I was thinking in that area, because horses are so prevalent.
Yeah.
You have so many.
With Grandpa, it was only Western. He was a cowboy. He was an old cowboy.
And he had quarter horses, didn't he? He had a bunch of quarter horses. That's what I thought.
Well, he had more muddy horses.
Stallions, everything, muddy horses. Okay.
Yeah. But I had a quarter horse when I got old enough to get my own horse. A horse, not a pony.
Right.
So then I had a quarter horse. But so that was. But I was always. We played art school. Like my little brother and sister is like, if you want me to play with you, we're gonna play art school.
Okay. All right. That's what you did.
I had my dad's old briefcase and with the color papers and the different crayons and the pencils and the watercolors.
Well, you'd be the teacher?
I'd be the teacher and they'd be the student. So that was I've always been, because I'm a painter by trade and training.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Never actually worked at a restaurant before.
So you knew this from a little girl all the way up?
Yeah, that was it. That was it, pretty much. I mean, fashion design was very tempting because I love clothes. But I ended up going to UC Santa Barbara because I wanted a full, I also love science. So I wanted all the stuff, all the fun stuff. So my dad's like, 2 majors only. I'm not paying for you to go to school for the rest of your life. And I'm like, but I want to go to school for the rest of my life. He's like, no, you will graduate and get a job someday. And I'm like, I have successfully avoided that.
Never getting a job someday.
I've never had a job.
You run your own business.
Yes, I'm very independent-minded. So
tell me, when you were in high school, when did it start? Do you think in high school you had to start thinking, because first of all, girls are starting to change. You've reached puberty and everything else. You get in high school. So life looks different. What did you start to find that was different in you? You knew you still liked art. Did you ever play any instruments or anything?
No, music, unfortunately, I love to be the audience of music, but I don't have any musical talent myself. As a painter, I feel like it's two sides to one coin. You know, what I do with light and movement and color is what musicians do with tone and rhythm and melody, right? So we're interpreting basically what artists and musicians and an athlete making a 3-point basketball shot. When you're in that zone where you're touching this higher spiritual whole realm, where all the everything in the universe and the energy is connected, and we have all information offered to us as that allowing state, we're like musicians are interpreting that energy through their instruments, and for me it's through the color and the paint and the pigment. That like whoever we are have chosen to be in this lifetime is like, I feel like it's through that instrument, whatever that instrument is, we can find that way to bring this, you know, higher level of energy and spirituality into anything we do when done with that, you know, connection.
Right. When you're
to that
painting,
energy.
do you have any particular medium that you like acrylic versus chalk versus crayon? I mean, do you have anything?
Yeah,
that you
I actually developed
or mud.
sometime when I was a kid.
I know.
When I was a kid.
You making mud pies?
mud cakes with the horses. Yeah, that was. Well, I developed. It took me about 15 years to develop my own technique that's very mixed medium, because my second degree was in religious philosophy, and I studied Buddhism, Shinto, and Taoism as my focus.
What were you raised as?
Not.
Okay. Was your father
My dad's
spiritual?
like, my mom was in later life when I was very focused on Buddhism, and she became a Tibetan Buddhist and was very involved in the Tibetan Buddhist community. My dad is agnostic on a good day.
Okay. All right. Okay. I hear you.
So, but I mean, mostly believing and caring for people is the highest kind of principle.
So back to your mediums. The mediums
Yeah.
that you use.
So anyway, for me, like I don't believe in death. Like I think the energy is you know, as it says, energy through the laws of physics, you
Never
can't
dissipates,
destroy
right.
its energy.
Matter cannot, right.
So I think we change, like, energy changes forms, but things are this beautiful energy that is like, so when I find like a dead butterfly, it's still beautiful, or a dragonfly, and the flowers from my garden. So I found a way to put everything in my paintings was once alive.
You took you 15 years to do this.
Yeah, well, because it's not easy to get dead shit into paintings.
Is
and
that what
keep
you're doing?
it there.
Is that what you're doing? Wait, your medium right now is dead shit.
But it has been for a long time, actually.
But now that's
Probably
what you
like
really.
20 years now.
Such as, okay, talk to me.
Well, okay, it's usually like flower, because I love flowers so much, and I love my garden. It's like my sanctuary. So, like, I take flowers from my garden, or when somebody gives me a bouquet of flowers, and it's for something special, and there's a memory, like I got a bouquet of flowers from as a thank you for giving the eulogy at my friend's funeral, who died way too young, and from his wife sent me these lilies. And so I put those into a painting to memorialize that moment of, you know, and then I did one painting for him and one painting with those flowers, and also he loves those horn-nosed beetles. So, you know, I found one in front of my door that was dead. I think they were spraying for that dengue fever and didn't tell anybody, right? So I found like horn-nosed beetles for the first time ever, but usually I can find some butterflies and dragonflies and beetles, like other kinds of beetles and things like that with the flowers, and to make like, so it's this feeling of like there's still a lot, like you can still appreciate that life force may have changed, but there's still a life force there. It's like in Shinto with the, like, everything has like an iki. You know, every molecule, we're all molecules. We're all stardust. Was it Carl Sagan who said that? You know, we're just all stardust finally, and like these molecules, we're sharing all of this. We just don't realize nothing is actually solid. It's you know, the real thing is like the space between the atoms that's holding it together, that energy, right? And it's crazy, like, but I love it. So
No, what they
interesting.
say is they say actually physically, I should be able to take my hand and go through this since my hand, but this is moving, wait, my hand, the molecules in my hand are moving faster than the ones here, so actually, I should be able to go through, but what
If you
stops
can-
it is I'm not able to break the illusion in my mind.
Exactly. If you can match your energy. I spent a lot of time around the Tibetan lamas, and this is something I innately knew from the time I was like, as early as I can remember.
So this was possible.
Yeah, I remember like laying when I was like 6 years old and laying in my grandparents' clover field, the cow field, and I just like spent hours. I was a good kid until I got to be about a teenager, and spend like hours staring at this clover flower and going like, I know I have the ability to change the molecular structure of this flower to be anything I want. I just can't remember how to do it. And if I sit here long enough and stare at it long enough, maybe I can remember, right? So I was
This is
just
a little girl, as a little girl.
yeah, so just kind of that's what put me on that path to like the always wanting to discover like more deeper levels in how we can do this if we would let drop the blocks in our mind to allow our energy to match.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And stop putting it off to fluke. I can share this with you, Traci. I think we know that all of us are senders and receivers, ESP.
Yes.
And we can decide to either ignore it or develop it. Some of us develop more receiving, some of us develop more of our sending, some of us develop both. Now, I'm good at both, and I know that. But what happens is sometimes you can hear things you don't want to hear and pick up messages from people. I'm saying from people, because if they're arguing and having a bad time, I didn't realize how much I was being affected until we were in a place. My wife and I were in an apartment building that had people in there that were arguing all the time, but I didn't notice it. When they left, I felt so peaceful.
Right, that energy like
That negative energy was gone.
it's hard. I think that's a hard thing that kind of keeps us locked into a more physical reality as well. Is like dealing with the energy like that just presents itself on a daily basis. You have to be really. The llamas are amazing. Like they're trained. They still get affected by it. Believe me, but just less than us who don't train like every single day really a lot.
And allow too much coming in.
Yeah, to
so
be able
true.
to shield. One of our family Tai Chi teacher had said like, because I used to get the Chicons on the train like every day. And he's like, and so I was
The Chi.
see Chicons.
What's the Chicon?
Bottom
Oh, the Chicon.
gropers.
Oh, Chicon.
Yeah,
Chicon.
the bottom gropers.
Because to see your bottom.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so he said, imagine yourself coated by Teflon. And so like the good energy can still come in, but the bad energy slips back to them.
And it stopped.
Right? And it's so weird. I'm like, that's way too easy, right? And he's like, well, just try it. It actually worked. But the only thing I noticed was for sure on the days where I would, like if I had a fight with my husband or something and my energy level was really low, boom, I didn't have the energy to keep, to redirect the energy. It would, and they know it, that the energy vampires can sense it, right? And the Chicons would come back. So
I like to call that vibration. When you learn to change your vibration, and I think that you can use different terminologies, but it's all the same thing. I think you learn to vibrate a certain way.
yes,
And if you do, it attracts what you want it to.
absolutely.
You know, similar vibrations which are attracted to each other. And I think that's so nice. So college, what was it like for you in college?
Well,
Why'd you start?
I went to UC Santa Barbara. There were a lot of parties, let's put it that way.
Did you make it out okay?
I did.
You did 4 years, you were good?
No,
No,
5.5.
5.5.
But I did have 2 degrees.
Because you wanted to stay.
I did. I do. I was not.
You
there
didn't
was
want to
a
get out.
beach on campus.
You didn't want to leave.
I did not want to leave. It was amazing. I loved it. But I did end up with 2 degrees, so that I use that as my.
Give me the degrees.
Yeah, fine
Art
arts,
and
and then
religion.
religious studies. And I'm like, Dad, ain't nobody giving me a job with an art degree and a religious studies
And you
degree
knew that.
anyway.
You
know,
knew that.
I knew that.
So let me
anyway.
stay in school.
I know. I could just become an academic.
How old were you when you decided to leave? Had you ever been to Japan before? What brought your interest into coming here? How did that happen?
Well, when I was a kid, my grandfather was in Japan during the occupation of World War II, and he had made really good friends in Japan, and they had invited him to join their business and stay. But he was, like immigrant Italian family, had a little, kind of very like farmer class. Not in 1945.
That's when the war ended.
Yeah, that having the mindset to move your family, and my dad was just born while he was gone, and having the mindset of a like poor immigrant farmer to move your family to Japan after the second. So, but I could tell that he always regretted it somehow, and because he always talked about Japan a lot, and with a great deal of love and respect, and a bit of regret. You know what I mean? So I think growing up, and I adored my grandfather more than anything in the world, right? So I think growing up, I always had such a strong impression of Japanese people, being so just kind and respectable people and honorable.
Did you have any friends like that growing up? Any Japanese friends?
No, well, I didn't. We kind of lived a very suburby kind of thing, and it was very white-bred.
Okay, so they weren't there. Nobody was there.
Yeah, like we moved to Virginia we were in Ohio and Virginia and
for how long?
Oh Jesus, it was like 6 years. Like seemed like forever. Ohio was. I'm sorry to anybody from Ohio, but oh my God, I remember being there as a kid and going,
how old were you?
Why would anybody move here? It's so cold.
Oh, you're talking about the weather. Okay.
I don't do cold.
No, not from California. It's hard.
I do not do cold. But there were only I think there was in my whole school there was like one Filipino girl. And there were no Mexicans, nobody else. There were white people and black people.
They had some black kids there?
It was Virginia.
Oh, you mean in Virginia? I'm talking about California.
In California.
Okay.
No, when we moved back to California, I honestly, when we left when I was, we'd moved back and forth, but I don't remember, it's before I even noticed things like that.
Okay, I hear you.
You know what I mean?
But you were in your world.
So by the time I was when I moved back to California, my school was super, the white neighbor.
Okay.
Yeah, there was one black kid and I think maybe 2 Chinese kids.
Right.
And that was it.
Right, I hear.
Yeah. So and I did not like that. Right. I thought it was so limiting to one's world and cultural views.
It's what we do as human beings. I don't know. The older I get, the more I realize. And see, it's interesting. In California, you would think that we're more liberal, and we're not. The South is, because they've had a history of that, and they realize how it affects everyone. So they really do try to integrate a lot in the South.
I don't know. My time in Virginia was
super
racist.
Well, they tell you the areas. The thing is, they're just verbal about it.
Right.
California, they're quiet about it.
I didn't feel like that was necessarily I don't think. It wasn't like anybody was keeping anybody out. It's just they didn't now. You go now, which is a long time since I graduated.
Okay.
Now it's very mixed. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
It just that many years ago it just wasn't.
You know what I think that's helping to foster a lot of this gathering together and realizing how similar we are and stuff? Information.
Oh, absolutely.
It took forever. I grew up at a time, and you wouldn't know this time, where we had to write letters to each other.
I'm not going to say that.
We had to write letters, and it took sometimes 2 or 3 weeks before you'd even receive an answer.
Yeah. And the only we had 3 television stations, and
you
only get your news from what they tell you to tell.
And the news anchor wasn't a celebrity; they just gave you the news.
Yeah, and some of them actually did journalism.
That's right.
And told the truth even.
And you only got it.
Worked to find the truth.
Right. I think you only got it 3 times a day. I think you had them
6
maybe
o'clock
morning,
news.
6 o'clock news, and that was it.
11 o'clock news.
11 o'clock news. Yeah. You had it twice a day maybe, and that was it.
Yeah.
And only for that time, and they didn't make it, they wouldn't dramatize anything. They would just give you the news. And then you were done.
And their job was to actually fight against government corruption and dig into that stuff, not support it.
Right,
you know.
Right. But then again, at my time, information came so slow, so you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
If one town or let's say a state had chickenpox, by the time you heard about it, it was over. It was over.
Well, they used to put us in the room with the other kids with chickenpox, so we'd all get it one time and get it over with.
It's done.
Yeah.
Get over with. That's interesting. So you enjoyed school, I can tell. You enjoyed the art part of it. You enjoyed going through that. What was your first job when you came out of college?
Oh my goodness. Well, I moved straight to Japan.
No, what made that happen?
Right. So all my friends, my roommates in college, they wanted to do their that time, the life discovery time between college and real life. You know, where you graduated and you take a year or two and do your thing, and then you're going to come back and start real life kind of thing. So they all went to Europe. And I'm like, well, I wasn't really interested. Europe's not changing that much. To me, philosophically, the Asian philosophy was more to my sort of philosophical ideas and spiritual ideas. And Asia was changing so fast at the time. I just felt like that, and my grandfather. So I just felt like that was, and I'm not I hate camping.
You're not a camper.
Yeah, so going to the countries that weren't developed was not going to work well for me. I needed to be in a developed country. So all those things pointed to Japan, right? So I just, I asked for graduation for a one-way ticket and $500. I'm like, well, that was gone in 2 weeks. I should have asked for a lot more. But so I got a job at a hostess club. And that,
did you come to Tokyo or did you go?
No, I first went to Osaka.
Osaka,
because I did have a couple of friends who'd gone ahead and lived in Osaka, so at least I knew 2 people, 3 people. But that was kind of, I didn't have a visa. I didn't speak Japanese.
Was that the first time in the hostess club where you met a Chican?
Oh no! Actually,
they were nice.
Actually, that was if it's not what people think.
I know.
Yeah, so it wasn't the sleazier clubs. Yeah, they're like that. But if you worked at a reasonable club, it was just I think it was more of psychological difficulty because you had a lot of the guys who would come to the clubs were the World War II generation and still had a real chip on their shoulder, so they some of them could be quite mean towards the American because it made them feel like big guys to be mean because they had this love-hate relationship with who is America, and now they have a girl who's working here and they were allowed to be abusive to so sometimes you just get those kind of asshole guys, so but overall, I mean, it was a really interesting life experience. It was bizarre.
Is that when you decided you were going to let me ask you this, do you plan on being here indefinitely or
no? Oh my god, I still super thought I'd be here for 2 years and then totally go back.
Okay.
Yeah. No, never thought I would stay.
And you did. Is that how you feel now? Do you still think you want to go back, or do you want to stay here, or do you want? I know earlier, I can share with everyone earlier that you were saying, I want to find another island that I can move to.
Yeah,
so I can
my goal is a tropical beach.
Well, you know that the Philippines has so many islands.
My friend immigrated living there and has this business. He's like, Tracy, you won't like it. The infrastructure is too, because I'm really fussy. He's like, the Wi-Fi's way too slow for you.
I want the water to work.
Yes, I want the water to work. God damn it!
I don't want to take a shower.
And if I work from my laptop, I need
electricity.
Good.
Right.
Wi-Fi
system, right?
Yeah.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
You want to make sure the poles are up. I need the system.
So, but anyway, we're not to that point. But I'm feeling safer here now.
Okay.
The way, I'm really, scared of what is going on in the U.S. and this sort of authoritarian turn it's taken. That freedom is the most basic and important human right we have, and I'm watching it being just systematically removed, and I'm like, I thought I would go back to California, at least, but ideally back and forth, and I was doing that before COVID don't get me started stuff.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so I was kind of going back and forth, and also to Australia.
You have friends in Australia?
I was dating a guy in Australia.
Okay.
So I was going back and forth to Australia and California and working from my laptop. Okay. And that was working out quite well. I was liking that a lot. Right. So throw an island in there, we're set, right? And then, yeah. But, so I think that's like the goal would not be to like leave Japan,
right?
But to have like
this is one of the satellites.
A home base, yeah, different home bases and not be tied to one place.
Okay, let's talk about this subject. The pink cow. How did you come up with that? Was that your idea?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was mostly so. I met my ex-husband at a club in Osaka, and that's why I ended up moving to Tokyo. We started dating long distance, and it was very expensive to go back and forth, and the telephone, that's when they had telephone bills. And
oh, you remember that time?
Yeah, unfortunately. So anyway, I ended up staying in Japan because I got married, and I swore I'd never get married unless I married a rock star. Be careful what you wish for.
He's a rock
star. So
yeah,
I married a Japanese like guitar hero player. Like, so we were married for like 12 years. So
are you still friends?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's family. I just don't want to be married to him.
Okay.
Thankfully, I'm so glad he got remarried. His new wife is fantastic.
Did you guys have kids?
No. Okay. I work like my focus was community building this community, and that's what the Pink Cow was.
Okay.
And is. I mean, not as much. I've stepped back quite a bit,
right.
But like as an artist and being surrounded by musicians and scientists, which I love science, and all the creative minds and new ideas, and I needed a place to put everybody together and like shake it up, and like see what comes out, because that's what I missed. I thought about going back to get my master's, and so I sent away for information, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to go back to school. I'm actually really glad I finished school and I'm doing other stuff. I'm like, so what's missing? Something was really missing when I was living here. And I'm like, it's not academia in and of itself. It's the creativity that surrounds academia and the ideas that surround that. So I'm like, okay, so we just need to make a place. And there were no burritos.
So wait, what is the Pink Cow? I know, wait, let me get my understanding correct. Because I've never been. I've been invited several times. The Pink Cow, I'm just guessing from what you've told me today, it's a place where people get together with all different types of creativity, but mostly art and music. Okay.
We have quite a lot of science and tech people too.
Are they able to eat there?
Yeah, it's a restaurant.
That's what I thought it was. That's what I wanted to ask.
The core business is a restaurant.
And
we don't charge for any of the art or music stuff.
I thought you were going to say you don't charge for any of the food. I was going to say,
they'd like to think so. And I have a problem with like giving the milk away with the cow away with the milk too. That's like a personal problem.
So what is the main? What's the cuisine you have there?
We're California Mexican.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's what I miss from home. There were when we opened in 2000. So this is 23 years. We opened in 2000, and there were no burritos. And I'm like, there's no creative community center for idea creation and, mixing it up and sort of like a mini Studio 54 kind of thing where people get crazy. You name it, we've done it there. And it's not always child appropriate. Nowadays it's just a restaurant. I don't have time to do that stuff anymore. But it was like an amazing 20 years of doing like craziness.
I saw I saw the body paint. And that was a big thing. And I saw you with your butterfly wings. I saw that. Your angel, your fairy wings.
My fairy ring, yeah.
And I've seen some of that. Halloween, you guys tend to seem like you just take over the whole thing. Nobody gets on the trains, they just stay at the Pink Cow. They say, what do we get? We need to ride the Yamanote, we just go to the Pink Cow.
Like Babyface's band came and jammed, and like Matt Sorum from Guns N' Roses played, and like we've had like a lot of like, I think Shaka Khan's drummer was there, so we've had some really amazing people like come through the doors and do some amazing things, like just sort of organically happen. A lot of it, but it was a lot of work to make the organic stuff happen.
Right.
And so working like 100 hours a week for that many years, I kind of got burnt out.
So what do you think you did that really put the Pink Cow on the map? When did you feel like, Because at the beginning, I'm sure it had to be kind of hard. Nobody knew what the pink. First of all, you called it a pink cow, and then you talk about burritos, which couldn't have been that popular at the time. Jimmy, what are you talking? What's a burrito? When was the moment when you felt like we're getting some traction here?
Well, it started on my roof balcony. So like and
the burritos too.
Yeah, I used to cook for like I'd invite 30 people and 100 people would show up.
And you were married then?
Yeah, and my husband was always like he would be at the studio.
Oh, but he's famous.
Most of
He's
the
a
time.
famous musician anyway, so he already had a following.
Yeah, but we didn't.
That didn't.
No, they didn't come. It was my friends that came.
Okay,
like
so the
I just
pink
needed
cow-
to get my friends off of our couch.
All right, got you. Okay.
He just would come home from the studio at 5 in the morning and go, "Why are your drunk friends always on my couch at 5 a.m.?" Because he didn't even drink, right?
Okay.
So,
Right.
so I'm like, and by then, me and my now business partner, we were sharing an art studio, and building stuff and doing exhibitions. And so we'd cater for like my exhibitions. I'd cook for everybody when they'd come to the parties. So I'd do this like once or twice a month. And then we'd cater art exhibitions, and then the economic advisor at the British embassy asked us who are great art supporters, asked us to come start catering their parties at the embassy. And I'm like, if we open a restaurant, we can get people off my couch and they can pay for their own stuff.
Oh, so you were basically providing all the food. And
Yeah, they were
at no
supposed
cost.
to bring the booze.
And you just provided all the food.
Yeah, but then they'd bring one bottle and drink two. So I was like ordering cases. I'm like, I can't afford you people. So
For what purpose? What was the purpose behind this if you weren't making any
community
money?
building. That was
But for them, they're thinking something. So you're thinking,
barbecues. You have neighborhood barbecues.
I understand that.
You know what the
But
neighborhood
they're thinking one thing, you're thinking something else. They're saying,
So,
okay,
yeah,
where
I
are
had
we
a
gonna go? They was thinking,
barbecue.
where are we gonna eat tonight? They said, where's Tracy?
It's so true. It was community. For me, it was community.
I know, they
It's like
do that. So.
my version of, and we had a barbecue. Like I would be barbecuing, and my friends
But it was
would
all
help
your
with
food.
that. And
They'd help you, but say, okay, I like mine
Yeah.
more. But it was
I didn't
all
like
your
to
meat.
work the
It was
barbecue
all your
though.
meat.
So well, some people would be nice and bring stuff, and
Okay.
I'd put out a box and say, chuck some donation in the box
If
to
you
help
want
pay
to,
for
okay,
the
all right,
food and stuff. But it was still expensive.
So when did you get your traction when you felt like?
But my grandparents were like that. It was always an open door policy. It's an Italian thing,
Right.
where these people come, you feed them.
Right. We want to be with Tracy.
Yeah,
don't we?
I know. But this has been a problem in business. It doesn't work that well when you're trying to make it into a business.
Right. So when did you get your traction? When did it hit? When you felt like, wow, this is.
I always felt like we did from day one. We did amazing, great things, but we never made money at it.
Okay.
So that's something that still sort of like that's why we scaled down to a small place that's more manageable. Because I just think the restaurant business is really hard, and it was amazing things we did, but it's like, okay, there's a time and a place for everything. Now it's time to make some money. So I'm just kind of shifted my focus more to back to another great passion of mine, which is cryptocurrency and freedom money.
The nice thing about that, Tracy, and when you talk about making money, is this: it's not the money that you want. What it is what it can be exchanged for.
Absolutely.
So you can do
the
more
freedom.
of what you enjoy doing.
Yeah, the freedom.
You want to help, and you want to feed more
And help
people, and you
people.
want to create more of a community.
Absolutely.
And you can do it if you have more capital. That's why it's important.
The more and more debt we took on as a
harder
business,
it made
the
it for you to
less
do it.
I couldn't
You
help
couldn't do it.
people and do that community
Right.
projects. That's when I realized I need to put on my own oxygen mask first, and I need to focus on bringing some capital into this picture so that I can actually do the things that are important. We need more good people to have money,
And also, you help the people that are coming into that make more money. And then pretty soon you have a community of people that are in the flow, so you can enjoy doing more of what you like doing anyway.
Yeah.
And it can just build from there. But it is an inside-outside proposition. It's not outside-in.
Yes, yeah.
That way. Tracy, before I end this podcast, there's a question I like to ask everyone. And I'm glad you haven't seen any of them, so you don't know what the question is.
I don't. Oh my God.
Knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time and meet the younger Traci and give her advice, how old would she be and what advice would you give her?
When you start listening to society telling you what you should think and how you should do, it's probably around 6 years old. So probably go back to that 6-year-old and say, don't listen to other people. You gotta follow your own instincts and your own real life destiny and life path, which I think I've done a lot of, you know? But there's also been a lot of stress of being scared if I've done the right thing or what I'm doing or where I'm going. There still is to a certain extent. I think that's part of life. But I think that would have saved a lot of mental anguish and stress to just trust that your universal path, if you listen to yourself, it will take you where you need to be.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Traci.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's absolutely my pleasure.
No, I enjoyed it.
I just can't.
Really nice.
I'm sure we have met. Maybe it was at Chamber of Commerce like 25 years ago or something.
Or maybe it was in our dreams.
It could have been.
You know, because
the astral project. Yes, right?
I do.
There you go. There you go. That must
have been. I've done it once for sure, I know.
Yeah.
I want to thank all of you for watching this podcast. Make sure you press like and subscribe. And never forget, it's all on loan, so continue to reach for the stars.
Because you're too blessed to be stressed.